Welcome along, and today we are in the army analysis series. We are looking at an army from the brand new DLC, Swords and Scimitars. It's here, it's live, it's real, and we are in the desert, and at random I have chosen to have a look at the Syrian States 1090 and their wonderful allies are the Crusaders 1155. Did the Crusaders ally with them? But anyway, in this game they're allies. So it's one of the brand new armies. Okay, we got some units from before and in other armies, but there are also some brand new army units in this DLC as well. So it's an interesting looking army. So really this is kind of a first reaction, you know. It's we haven't really seen it in action yet. I know some of you will be maybe taking it in the league, playing against it in the league. Let's see what we think. So we're using, as I always say, 1200 points. This is what we use in the digital league in high middle ages. So I'm using 1200 points. Now, first look, it's a half and half army, isn't it, really? So what I've done, I've taken the Crusaders because they give me better infantry. If I didn't take the Crusaders, I've got hardly any infantry, and it would be kind of all cav almost. So I think the way I would play it, I would use my infantry as kind of the holding force. There's also quite a lot of archers that I've taken. You've got a lot of choice there with the archers. So I have got 2 of the massed Muslim archers. There's one there. There's another one there. Got some crossbowmen. I've got some light archers. You know, it's this kind of army. You're not really going to go head on, especially against the European armies with all the heavy foot and the dismounted knights and armor and all the rest of it. It's going to be classical warfare, really, which is kind of hit and run, I would say. You know, get in a fair position, use rough ground, fire at the enemy, and then hit them with your cav. A lot of these cav are, I think actually almost all of them are bowmen, which is great. I mean, apart from the knights which come already with this list. I'm going to talk about those in a minute. These Mamelukes, you know, they're okay, and the Bedu, they're not, but the Turkoman cav, a bow. You've got your high quality armored horse archers, obviously bow. Turkoman light horses, bow. So you got a fair bit of bow, which is fantastic. It means that you can force the enemy onto you, and I think this is what you're going to need to do. You're going to need to use this. The cavalry is going to win you the game, I would say. The infantry is more the holding. They're going to hold the enemy in place, and then you're going to hopefully destroy the enemy cavalry, batter away at the infantry. You've got quite a lot of light horse, so you know they can get into action and hopefully help you disrupt some infantry before you go in, ideally. And that's the kind of way I would play it. Let's have a quick look at the infantry. So, you know, these are only raw Muslim spearmen, but as I've said in other videos, raw spearmen are actually pretty good. You know, for the price, absolutely great at 24, and especially against cavalry, they can do a decent job. Even against infantry, you know, they can, you know, with a few lucky rolls, you can hold for quite some time. If you're unlucky, then, you know, they might go fairly quickly, but on average they'll do a fairly decent job. And then you've got a few of your standard defensive spear, and then you've got, I haven't played much with these at all, but some players really love these units. They're the kind of mixed crossbowman, spearman, swordsman units, and I think they can be really helpful if used in. I think what you really need to do is concentrate your fire. I mean, if you've got your bowmen and your light archers and your crossbowmen, if you can focus on a unit or units, disrupt one or two of them, and then go in, this is how you're going to win. Because on their own, you know, it's just average quality, raw, average. You haven't got any decent infantry, so, you know, even your armored spearmen, they're only average quality. So you really need to, everything's got to work together, I'd say. You've got to use your archers with your crossbowmen, with your cav, with your light horse, and your infantry, and it's all got to work together. So it's probably not so easy to use this army, but if you can coordinate, that's the key word really, coordination. If you can coordinate all the different pieces of this army, I think you got a fair to good chance of winning. So that's what you need to do. One of the keys, I would say, to winning are these wonderful units. I haven't used them so much, but I think, and we're going to see, you know, how people do and how armies do and how units do, but these Gilman, you know, units are superior quality and armored, and they're bowmen, and I think they're probably up there. They could be one of the best units in the game. Let's see. But you know, if you go in with some light horse and you've got a few other Gilman units, and you can easily disrupt cavalry. You know, cavalry against missile fire is a bad matchup for cavalry. So, you know, disruptions of any kind, and then going in with your superior quality cavalry, it's just great for you, and bad news for your opponent. So it's kind of like half of a Mongol kind of army, really, isn't it? You've got like half Mongol style army, and then more traditional standard infantry. So it's an interesting mix. You've also got some cheap lancers. I think lancers can be excellent troops, really effective and not so expensive. I mean, these are probably some of the cheaper. Well, we've even got the light and light. These are probably the cheapest lancers in the game. Light horse. There they are there. So let's zoom in a little bit. So these are actually only 28 lancers. That's excellent. And then you've got, you know, the Bedu Cav, which is 30, and 34 is a great price as well. And they're protected lancers. These are unprotected lancers. So you've got a real nice mix of units. You've got your bowmen, superior quality. You've got your kind of more standard mounted bow, and then your light. It's a great mix. Again, coordination. If you can use all of these units together, you know, disrupt with bow, go in with your, you know, flank, and go in with your light lancers, and then the heavier cav in. I mean, you know, Bob's your uncle. It could be good. It could be good. Let's have a quick look at this map. it's interesting really, because on one hand, you know, usually when you've got a fair bit of bowmen and weak infantry, you want rough ground just to, you know, upset your enemy who might have the superior quality infantry and heavy infantry, but it's going to do, you know, be less effective and not do as well on rough ground. So in that sense, the rough ground can be great for your infantry. But in saying that, when you're relying on your cavalry, this kind of map with the rough ground is not so good, because you really want open ground for your cavalry, you know, to get your charges off and so on. Because if the enemy puts medium infantry on it or just has bowmen there, I mean, that can hold up your cavalry a lot. And, you know, with this, is it the sea or something? it's cutting the map up a bit. That might be a challenge, because probably ideally you would want a full map, open plains, and, you know, maybe cavalry on both sides. But here it's, you know, you're a bit squashed. But saying that, with your bow, you know, that means you can kind of keep trying to force the enemy onto you. And that's one of the ways you're gonna win with this kind of army. I did have a look at some of the allies, and, well, there's a few Crusader options. This seemed to be one of the better options. The other option, I think there was an Arab ally and I think it was an Asian ally, but they were essentially giving you more cav, and I think probably this kind of setup is going to be better, because you've got your infantry, you've got a fair bit of archers there, and you've got enough cav to do damage. Now, you know, I think with the infantry, I've only got 10 units, and then, you know, with the crossbowmen and the bowmen, you get a few more units. But in terms of infantry, I think it was 10. Yeah, and there's another the archers here. So that is not a large force. It's quite small. But when I went through the numbers, if you include infantry and cavalry together, and come up with a figure, you've got around 29. I think I've got about 10 infantry units, and I've got 14 cavalry units, and I've got about 5 archer units. So, you know, putting everything together, excluding skirmishers, it's about 29 units. And when I look back on the armies that I've covered, the Papal army was one of the first ones I did. First one I did, it's 28. I had 28 units, infantry and cavalry, plus 1 skirmisher. With the Germans, the German Imperial Army, it was 30 units, including infantry and cavalry. With the Tuareg Army, it was 29, including infantry and cavalry, plus 5 skirmishers. And so with this one, it's 29 plus 2 skirmishers. So it's about the same. It's in terms of units, cavalry, infantry units, it's about the same. So yes, your infantry army is small, but your cavalry makes up for it. So it will be very interesting to see how people do these armies. I do think that kind of one of the things that I'd like, in terms of perfection and what you'd like to see in the game. The thing about medieval is it's really dominated up until these last couple of DLCs. It's been dominated by defensive spearmen, and compared to ancients, a lot of the heavy infantry is unmaneuverable. Even the cavalry, like the knights. So it's a kind of a slower pace. A lot of just head-on collisions. Not so many flank attacks and flanking maneuvers as compared to classical period and the ancients in general. So to get more of a mix, to get more, and this is what we need. I hope they keep adding more unique units. I think, in my opinion, it just needs more, even, because I just want to move, ideally anyway, talking as a gamer, war gamer, one of the real crucial parts of it and most interesting parts of wargaming for me is if you think back to tabletop, I know a lot of you were into tabletop wargaming, and I was as a kid, and it was the unique units. It was I was into Napoleonic wargaming. It was the Polish Lancers, it was the French Grenadiers, it was the British Guard, the Hussars. I mean, all these wonderful variation, and we need more of that. We need to get away from spearmen, knights, skirmishers, arch, and anything that's kind of more new, and new armies, new ways of playing. This is going to take the game to the next level. So this kind of army, it moves us in that direction. Because it's more fluid, it's more flexible, less grindy. And even the map, we've got the desert now. We've got the desert maps, desert armies. It's just, this is what we need. So congratulations to the developers, and I just hope that we get even more kind of what I'd like to see. Really, ideally, is there's quite a lot, even now, there's quite a lot of armies that are fairly generic. They're still fairly generic. They're okay, all right, Camel Lance is great, but then, a lot of armies use them. The Muslim spearmen, they're in loads of armies, of the Arab armies. Defensive spearmen are in everything, the European armies. We need more unique armies that are particular to our certain list, a certain army. These units were great. These are kind of specialized units, this mixed bow and infantry, because they're not in a lot of lists. So this kind of thing is what I want to see more of. These kind of units, because they just add something to the game. And let's hope that we see more, and we've got I think a couple more DLCs yet, so fingers crossed. We'll keep moving on, keep developing. Okay, so that's about it for my analysis. Let me know your thoughts, and later on, some of you will be playing with this army. Let us know how you get on. There's no, as it's brand new, there's no records yet, so it'll be interesting to see how people do. So let's see. Okay, thanks a lot for watching, and see you again soon.